Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the FA's Football and Me. I'm Sani Rajavajula.
And I'm Amber Sandhu, and we are so excited because we're here at the home of English football, St George's Park, for today's episode, which is all about South Asian inclusion within the game. One of my favourite things about the game is the fact it has the power to bring us together. So this series is all about celebrating our differences, what makes us unique and what unites us. Joining us for today's episode, we have got an excellent lineup of guests. An absolute trailblazer, Leicester City midfielder, Arjan Raikhy. International development coach at Tottenham Hotspur, Manisha Tailor.
We've got man of the people from the FSA and Fans for Diversity, Nilesh, Chauhan, and also ex-player from the Premier League. He's head of education and player academy welfare, David Rainford.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This is pretty special because I think it's quite rare and really nice that we've got a player perspective, a coach perspective, a man of the people, a fan perspective, and someone who works at the body at the Premier League as well. I am going to have to start off by telling you off because I did set you all a bit of homework. I only asked you for one thing, and that was to bring an object that means something to you when it comes to football. Only Arjan's done it, so thank you, Arjan. The other three, I will let you off. But I guess a nice place to start as we get to know each other is, what was that moment for you that made you fall in love with the game, or that moment in the game that you were like, oh, actually, I want to pursue a career in football? What was it for you, Arjan? I'll start with you because you bought your object.
Yeah,
so.
probably from the ages of around 8 or 9 when I first started, and Dad first took me to the park, just training with him and just finding a love for it. And from there really, and him teaching me his skills and his experiences and taking me to football games as well, stuff like that just made me want to carry on to play football and to carry on to even watch football as well.
And the shirt on the table?
Yeah, that's my shirt from February this season. I made my championship debut against Swansea for Leicester City. So yeah, it's a proud moment for me and my family.
Manisha, for you?
I think the moment for me, when I was kind of going through my teaching career, a light bulb moment in terms of coaching was around 2002. I was teaching at a Hindu faith school in Neasden, the Swaminarayan school. And the school at that time didn't have any provision for lunchtime clubs and after school clubs. And I could see the kids at lunchtime just playing with their friends. And I thought, that they could really benefit from something a little bit more structured. So I spoke to the head teacher, and he was actually a massive Leicester City fan and a huge football fan, and really supportive of me trying to set up a lunchtime club and an after school club, which started off with a group of boys, and then we worked with the parents to set up a club for girls as well.
Becoming a fan of the game was when I was younger and I was watching Villa against Man United, and at the time when Man United had the half and half kit, which was the yellow and the green kit, and we won 3-1. So that was a massive moment for me, because it was like, oh, you know what? I got into the game with Villa, have just won a cup, and I watched it. And I wasn't at a stadium or anything, I was just at home with my family, and we were watching it there. And I really became a fan. But moving on, and as I got older, I ran a fan group called Villains Together. For me to take the career into football was when I could see the change that football can make into people, and how it can make a positive change. And when I was taking people from different backgrounds to the ground, and then they were becoming fans and they were accepting that they could actually be part of the game, that was the real difference for me to take the career.
We've got two players from different eras, I guess now. What about you, David?
Very
what about your journey?
Well, no, my love for football started similar to Arjan. I was just playing on the green. Started. I didn't really think at the time about having a career in the game. I just loved playing it. There was, I was fortunate. There's plenty of role models I looked up to. I loved a player called David Rocastle. I thought he was, just fantastic with his skills, etc. I suppose really fortunate. I went to a school that had a really strong sort of sporting ethos, and had the opportunity to play a lot more football, etc. And then I became a young professional. It's a difficult pathway. I played for Colchester United at a similar age to Arjan. I came away there at 20, so I played about 3 or 4 games at 20. Football league, and then I went and became a teacher. Went to go give back PE teacher and a science teacher. But through playing in the non-league pyramid, which we might talk about a bit later on, I ended up getting promoted back from the National League, which is a good standard, from the National League back into the Football League when I was 26. So scoring my first league goal at 27 sort of 7 seasons after I'd sort of been released and come away from the Football League. That was a really, really proud moment. But I've been fortunate enough to, football has been, part of my life from a young child. Now being part of the infrastructure of football, working at the Premier League, I work predominantly in education and player care. It's a real area that I connect to. So yeah, lots of fond memories. I'm really, really privileged and blessed to be around the game still now today.
Definitely. Arjan, what's the journey been like for you? You touched upon, your dad taking you to football. You started at quite a young age. I know you came through the academies. You were at West Brom. We won't talk too much about that. 8 years at Aston Villa, and then obviously making your first senior start for Leicester City. They're just some of the accolades which I've probably missed. But that's why I called you a trailblazer. Do you think 8-year-old Arjan would be even imagining what he's doing now?
At 8 years old, no way would I thought I'd be what I've done. But it's just a start. I haven't done anything just yet. I need to continue and keep progressing through the levels and kick on from now and start to play more games and become a bigger figure in football. What's
the rise been like for you from academy and then coming to Leicester?
It's a lot of ups and downs. There's positives and negatives. You have to just take it in your stride really and use it as motivation. Obviously I got released from West Brom and Villa and then luckily Leicester picked me up. So you just have to just take the opportunities as they come and give it everything. That's what I pretty much did, and from the support from my family and especially my dad helped me through all them years, from even when I got rejected from clubs. His support has massively helped me.
Yeah, Arjan, on that, you said your dad was your big supporter here. What about the rest of your family? Because so many South Asian families. I was never going to make it, by the way, but I definitely didn't have any family support at all when I was going to try and play football. What about the general picture for you?
Yeah, even from granddad to grandma, mum and to my sisters, they've all been really supportive from me. I remember being like 15, 16, and that's the age when you get your scholarship. And mum was like, just focus on your education. But at the same time, she said, if football's what you want to do, then go pursue it and give it everything, which I can't thank her enough for. And even the support from my sisters as well, coming to watch training, taking me to games, training, just all support that I can't thank them for really,
Manisha, we hear this kind of stereotype a lot, don't we, that you've got to focus on your education thing, and we're kind of getting into what, 4th generation of South Asians in the country now. Do you think that's kind of changing? Could you relate to some of those experiences that Arjan was saying?
Yeah, I can definitely relate to some of those experiences, and I think we're almost from, we've got a generation with David there, and then you've got a generation between myself and Arjan as well, and I'm from a generation where football as we see it now, particularly for women and girls, didn't exist, and there was a lack of infrastructure, and we know about the ban for 50 years and so forth. So there's a lot of synergy in terms of education playing a big part. But I can also see evolvement from the time that I fell in love with football as an 8-year-old to kind of many years on to now, and I think that it's great to see that participation levels have increased. There's definitely a lot more women and girls from a South Asian background involved in the game, which is brilliant. Definitely think something for discussion, and I'm sure we'll come on to it, will be around the professional game and the number of women and girls involved who are playing perhaps Championship, WSL and international level.
There's also a lot around getting more South Asians into the Premier League as well. I know there's the South Asian Action Plan. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a commitment from the Premier League to support and encourage British South Asian players into the game. We've got great representatives at the time. Arjan, Brandon Keller. There's other people out there, Zadine Iqbal, etc. Really making their way. We don't put too much pressure on them. It's hard enough in the game, as Arjan will tell us later. But there is the South Asian Action Plan was a direct commitment to supporting the underrepresentation of British South Asians in the game, and that's come about from the EBBB. I mentioned it before. The Elite Player Performance Plan. The framework of the academy system has been really positive. It's been over 12 years now that's been embedded, and that's our academy system, our categories, and the provision that goes in place. And there was a recognition that there was an underrepresentation of South Asians. As much as we've got excellent examples, and Arjan's one of them here. There's a disproportion between the amount of players from British South Asian heritage that we want within the games. The emerging talent festivals, where we wanted to sort of really encourage players from South Asian heritage to experience sort of an academy-like festival, academy-like tournament and training, and that's made real momentum in the last 3 years it's been going on. But it's also included highlighting the fact that we want to address this work. As a Premier League, we work directly with our clubs. It is something that the Premier League they want to see over time. The EBBB, like I said, is a 12-year strategic plan. The South Asian plan is 2.5, 3 years in situ. We're not there yet. We've still got to support players like Arjan, because they are trailblazers, they are role models, and that's huge. But there's a real commitment from the Premier League to address this area.
Nilesh, we've talked a lot about on the pitch, off the pitch. Now I know I've been the only Asian on a terrace before. I'm sure you have as well. Have we come on from those days? Because we can all remember like the South Asian family sat behind Alex Ferguson at Old Trafford, or there's Punjabi White on Instagram and Twitter, the Leeds fan with the Leeds coloured turban as well. But there's the more South Asians are getting involved in football, you must be seeing that with the FSA as well.
Yeah, I see now. It's a massive change, which is great, and we talk about how football has changed and how it's grown over generations and everything else, and I think that has played a major part. Younger kids are playing football, but their parents were never into football, but now because their kids are playing football, they're actually coming to watch football, and then their kids are becoming a fan of football, and then their dads and parents are like, well, we've got to become a fan now, so they've then taken an interest, and they're like, well, actually it's quite a good game. You can see that generation change has forced some of the parents and the older generation to actually watch football now, which is really good to see, whereas before they'd probably think, no, it's not for me, I've got other things to do or whatever. But now there's a change there, and it's good to see, but there's still lots of work to do, and we need to keep progressing with that.
I called you a man of the people, not because I was trying to hype you up, because I think fans are one of the most important parts of the game.
Yeah.
Can you describe the moment that you went to your first football game, and then how much it's changed now, and all of the work, all the endless work that you're doing with fans of diversity?
The first time I went to a game, it wasn't a great experience. It was good on the pitch because we won, but when I first went, I was like a teenager and stuff like that, and we won, and somebody literally behind me said, "For your sake, it's a good job we've won." And I was like, "What did you mean by that?" And he just went, "No, for your sake, it's a good job we've won." And I was like, okay, so that was either a threat or what, I wanted to get out of the stadium as quick as possible just to not have any trouble at all. Now, if I go now, it's obviously changed a lot. There's a lot there, and if there is problems like that, there's things in place that we can report on. The first time I went wasn't the greatest experience at all, but that's why I wanted to get into football and make a change.
Manisha, I know you started your kind of coaching career, you were volunteering at QPR, weren't you? And you must have, and then you worked your way up and shadowed different coaches, and now you're working at Tottenham Hotspur. What was that journey like for you? And potentially, I'm always an advocate, if you can see it, you can be it, but often you can't see it, can you? So what was that like for you?
From my parents' perspective, they saw me as somebody who was in a very good position in education. I was a deputy head, I qualified as a head teacher, and I was looking for headship positions. It was quite difficult for them to understand why I wanted to take a career change, and actually the purpose behind it was the fact that it meant a lot to me, and football meant a lot to me because it's something I shared with my twin brother. The landscape is very difficult to actually come into. Now, there are programs and initiatives that are really helping to break down some of those challenges, which I've personally benefited from as well, like the Premier League program, such as ECAS, which was brilliant for me, which allowed me to kind of transition from part-time QPR to full-time. But you do need that ally and that support, and for me that became Chris Ramsey, and I suppose the rest has been history, because that support has definitely helped, along with others, to help with the trajectory of my career.
You've been fantastic. I also wanted to mention the England Elite Coach Programme, because you were coaching the England under 15 girls, weren't you? What was that like? That must have been surreal.
Yeah, assisting the 15s has been brilliant. I mean, when I spent my time at QPR, we had, in the boys' academy, we had a number of internationals, and my role was to liaise with some of their head coaches in terms of the youth development programme. And I had the opportunity to go to a couple of the England matches when we were doing some stuff around talent ID, but to be involved in the women's game was fantastic, and having an opportunity over a season to see the difference between club football and seeing the players day in, day out to international football was great from a learning perspective as a coach. How they work as a multidisciplinary team was also good because you've got different dynamics and of course, different in itself because they don't see the players day in, day out in comparison to those who work full-time in clubs. Seeing different coaches and seeing how different people work. And it was also fantastic that I had the opportunity on my last 2 camps to see a female under 15 of South Asian heritage who represented the Lionesses. And that for me, I think, was almost the epitome of the programme. And there are many fantastic memories I've taken from it and thankful for the opportunity.
You got back to the older generation, that like my older uncles and everything else, they used to think, to be part of football, you've got to be on the pitch. You've got to be on the pitch and you've got to be scoring goals. You've got to be on TV and everything else. But now, you've got people who are becoming fans of football, of our generation and stuff. They can actually see the wider picture of football and how football actually works in itself. And there's more to than, there's more opportunities than just playing on the pitch and everything else. I run a community who is my own temple. We've got about 68 kids, but we've got 15 volunteer coaches. And the reason why I mention this now, they're all volunteer coaches. They never thought they were ever going to be a coach before, but they've gone on a little bit of a pathway where they've done the playmaker course, they've done their introduction to football, which is great for them, and they love that. But what's happened now is you've got some players there who are about 14 and stuff now. They've inspired them to become coaches. So they've thought, oh, you know what, I actually want to do this, and they've come up with their own session plans and everything else. So things are like that changing, and they're like, they're the inspiring people that are doing that. So the change is there.
You spoke about allies, and I can completely relate to having those people that you can lean on in what can be sometimes you're on your own in this and you almost have to work twice as hard, let's be honest. What else do you think needs to change? What would you like to see change? I guess I'm opening this up to all of you. Diversity
brings diverse thinking, right? So this isn't just about diversity in jobs. We know that's needed because the lens that Arjan will have is going to be different to the lens I have, and likewise with Nilesh and likewise with Rains. However, diversity in thinking, as well as ethnicity and culture and race, is equally important. So I think there needs to be greater, I talk about accountability. We actively need to look at who the decision makers are, and if the decision makers are truly diverse. I'm not just talking about cultural, diversity in terms of that demographic. I'm talking about diverse generally in terms of diverse in, in thinking. Do we have women? Do we have people of, different protected characteristics? Ultimately, if we do, hopefully that diverse thinking can bring about change, because you've got people who think differently and therefore will act differently because they come from different experiences and can see the benefit of it.
Arjan, trailblazer, right, this term, yeah, I can list so many South Asian heritage footballers. Does all this sort of stuff weigh on you? Because we're here in 2024 and you are being identified not just as a Premier League footballer, not just somebody who's working their way through the ranks, hoping to get more first team starts in the Premier League now. You've also got all this other things like weighing on you and there's people looking at you in this different lens. Does it tire you out? Are you aware of it? What do you do about all this?
No, to be fair, for me to be a role model to other kids and people around me in football, it's a privilege. I think Downers, I'll always have time for him and for people that want to speak to me, even the Asian kids in football. For me to have the opportunity, I'm just delighted. Even when I was 8 or 9 years old, I never thought I'd be here, so to be in this position, I'm just grateful for it.
All of you have touched on your journey, on your rise in your respective careers. It can't have come without its challenges though, and those moments that you had doubts, or the imposter syndrome's kicked in, or you're not sure that you're doing the right thing. You're nodding, Manisha. Were there moments for you?
There's still moments, right? I think, like all of us have said, that it's a fantastic environment to be in, especially as a football fan, right? That you're living your dream, you're working your dream. That's what all of us are doing. But it's also a very challenging environment, and I think it takes a lot of character. It takes a lot of perseverance and determination. You know, we love football, but actually we're in it because we want to create some positive change, and you know, and leave a legacy, really.
Much we want to see more players from lots of heritage, but we're talking specifically about, you know, British, South Asian and players, and I do believe we'll see that over time if we're patient. But it's an extremely aspirational pathway for any young player. I've just been at a programme this week with 40 young players, similar age to Arjan, who are out of contract, who are departing clubs, and it's challenging. It's about knowing what steps are next. So, like I said, for Arjan and friends of his, you know, Brendan, who obviously we've got to talk about, Hamza Chowdhury, who's really established a fantastic career. Just for any young person, from whatever background you are, to be a professional player and to be at the Premier League, it's extremely aspirational. But equally, it's about what the game can give you anyway. I played a handful of professional games, 50 professional games, but football's been part of my life. I've had a great deal back from it. And anyone, whether it's the young 8-year-old playing, in their community to people playing walking football in retirement age, it's like what football can give them. And like I said, any time spent in the football environment should be beneficial and value to their life. And that's what we want to promote as well.
How do we encourage young South Asian boys and girls with the pathway with football, when we've named quite a few players now, but still not as many as there should be? I think we can probably agree. How do we encourage them and nurture them and give them that positive reinforcement that there could be a career here and you can pursue football?
We've got to show them the impact that's happened already. So, if you look at somebody who's gone on the pathway and everything else, of the coaching pathway and the impact that they made, like something like Manisha and everything else, it's there to be seen, and you can see that, and that's worked really well. I've worked with a couple of coaches now, women coaches who mention Manisha because of her pathway, bigging you up here, But look, they were like, we want to do that because, Manisha's same colour as us, and she's done it, and we want to get there. So it's that showing that impact is key for me.
We've touched on it before. I think the whole environment has to show it's a welcoming and belonging environment. Players is huge. Role models to be able to see people on the pitch. That's absolutely huge. But equally, what Nilesh is doing in the stands when you go into a game and you're seeing people like enjoying the game from your backgrounds or from your community, that's huge. We're seeing Premier League referees who had Sonny this year, as a referee in the Premier League. We're seeing coaches. I think it's an environment that should feel I belong in this environment. It's a lot of hard work to get to where Arjan is. People shouldn't just be entering thinking I'll start playing because I want to be professional. They should enter for what they're going to get out of the game. As much as Arjan would have been hopeful, I suppose when you're 7 or 8, surely it's just about the sort of intrinsic love of what this sport's doing. But I think that's what we've got to keep promoting. That this game is for all.
It's about those from a South Asian community being afforded the opportunity based on talent and talent alone, as opposed to people making judgment based on race and skin colour.
The more children, the more young people playing. I will harp on about the South Asian Action Plan. We have a real focus around what we call the foundation phase. It's from 8 to 12 years old, because Arjan was already mentioned, he started playing young, and we know the data. We don't want to be all het up about data, but we want to be informed by data. Young players who make that progression to where Arjan is, make the professional ranks, they've normally had a significant amount of years within the pathway, the talent pathway. So that's why our emerging talent festivals have a real focus around younger children, because we know we want to try and encourage them to have access to academies, the academy environment, because that's going to be really important to giving them, equipping them with the skills and techniques that they're going to need to be able to play at the highest level.
When I was that age, I couldn't imagine kicking a ball at that age, and it's so, for me, like from a dad's point of view, I'm a coach as well, but it's just great to see my son kicking a ball at that age and smiling. That's what you want to see, and it's just great.
Why, if somebody's thinking, why is this even needed? Why do we need to do anything? Can you just give it, maybe it's a big question, maybe obvious to us perhaps, but I think something, especially now, we need to ask that question, why do we need to do these steps? What are we missing out?
I think the reason why is because football is, like we always say, football's for all, and we want people to feel that as well. We don't want people to feel that they can't step into a stadium and sit there and enjoy a game, and that's one of the biggest points there, because that's why for me, we don't want people to feel that they can't go there and enjoy a game. It's a similar thing with, I took a group to Solihull Moors once. They never thought they would go and watch a game at that level and enjoy it. And they thought, they sat in one corner because they thought they want to mix with the crowd and everything else. So it's massive like that, they have to feel that they can go there and they want to enjoy it, and we can give them that environment to enjoy the game as well.
What's the long-term vision for the four of you? There's positive changes being made. You all are doing fantastic work as well, but what's the long-term vision? And if we're looking at, in 10 years' time, how do we want the landscape to change?
I think we want to see, pitches that represent, society, our wonderful society. In Britain, in England, we've got fantastic communities. We want to see that replicate. We know football's such a barometer for society, isn't it? It really can set the tone of what we expect in our community. So I think we should be ambitious. I think we need to know how many young people are playing the game, so we can start to make sort of ambitions off the back of that. You asked a question before about why are we doing this? So one, it's the right thing to do from an inclusion point of view, and that should be our aspiration, to be as inclusive game as possible, but we're better for it. But as time goes on, at the elite level, you need every marginal game you can, and if we've got a community that we're not fully accessing at this moment in time, and we want the best players as possible, we want to widen the net, as Manisha said, to as far as possible. So it's not only the moral obligation bit, which is strong enough meaning, but we want to be a better game for it, and the more people we've got playing, that'll be that will demonstrate that.
Representation in terms of like the demographic and the people that from a South Asian community that are involved in the game, but in football and beyond, because not everyone's going to become a player, whether it's South Asian or not. The statistics are so low, and the amount who can gain a professional contract are so low because the numbers are so limited. And that's where I think that beyond piece is really important. So whether it's, seeing more club doctors, physio, sports scientists, coaches, nutritionists and so forth, but actually feeling as though there is a place for them where they can earn a living from working in football, not just in football, but football and beyond.
The long-term vision for me would be to have fan groups not come to me and go, we've had this report. So that would be like a massive success, but it's a very long-term vision because there's a massive road that we've got to go, and I don't think we'll go a whole season yet without there being some sort of racial abuse or discrimination against a player or a fan. I wouldn't say it's weekly, I'd say more it's monthly, but we do get that, and they'll be like coming to us, we've got this incident and everything else, but they'll say, okay, how do we now go through a proper process of reporting that? Now you've got a club way of reporting it, and then you've got kick it out's way of reporting it. So what we then try and do is educate the fan group to go, okay, this is the education of going how to report an incident and how to deal with it at the time. But we've got another flip side to that, is where the person that has had the abuse then needs that support. So then they come to the support group to have that support, and then they then get educated on how to support them as well. So it's a bit of a process, but it's a process that sometimes works a lot as well.
10 years, to see a load more Asian football players, I think, for women and for men as well. I think for someone to break through to play for England's senior team, I think that would be a massive achievement. Even for like the stuff like this and the Ames programme and stuff, hopefully that won't be a thing in 10 years. Hopefully we've already smashed it by then, so we don't have to do it, do you know what I mean? So hopefully just keeps moving forward really with it.
Big thank you to all of our brilliant guests on today's conversation. And if this chat has inspired you, all you've got to do is search Find Football on the FA website. But I think we can agree, Sally, positive change is happening, and there are role models and trailblazers.
Yep, and much more to come as well. And there's even more to come from this FA series. Just search Football and Me to get even more.